All right, we're here today. We're going to make some applesauce muffins. If you're in my culinary class, you made some muffins just a couple of days ago, and these are really similar. The muffins you made earlier this week were the buried treasure muffins, and they use the blending method of mixing, meaning that the sugar went in with the dry ingredients, used a liquid fat, and combined it with the other liquid ingredients, including the eggs. And this particular recipe uses the creaming method of mixing. We have our dry ingredients assembled and ready to put together in the bowl. I have the measure of flour in this smaller bowl, and to that I'm going to add some baking soda, salt, and a bit of baking powder. It's important that you get the measures on the baking powder and baking soda correct because they're not the same ingredient, and if you mix up the measurements, your muffins will not turn out correctly. And we have our flavorings also: cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and cloves. I actually have 3 of those here. With the exception of the cinnamon, the other spices are sort of flexible on what you choose to put in. If you just have the cinnamon and you want to go with only that flavoring, it would be totally fine because these are not formula influencing ingredients. They really are just for flavoring. So I'm going to add those to the bowl, and we'll just go ahead and mix together those dry ingredients a little bit. And then in the larger of the 2 bowls, I have our measure of sugar, and I have 1 full cup of sugar. And to that, we're going to add our shortening. And this is where the creaming method of mixing comes in. I've got a rather small amount of shortening. It's just 1/4 of a cup that I'm going to cream together with the sugar. And usually when you're creaming a solid fat with sugar together, you have a little bit more of the fat, and you're able to achieve a nice creamy consistency to these 2 ingredients. And with this recipe, because there's applesauce in it, the applesauce is a very moist ingredient, and it's going to give a lot of moisture to the dough. So the rest of the ingredients have to kind of compensate for that, which means you're not going to be using too much shortening. So the goal at this step with the shortening and sugar is to try to mix them sort of thoroughly, although they're not going to develop a very creamy consistency at this point. What you should have in your bowl when you're finished mixing is something that sort of looks like clumped together beach sand. All right, and so it looks just sort of like that, almost a crumbly kind of mixture. Okay. To that, we're going to add the egg. And after the addition of the egg, you will definitely have a nice creamy mixture. Okay, we're going to mix the egg. We're going to mix in all of the sugar and shortening. And we're going to take a minute to make sure that it's not only well combined, but that we're beating it until it's a little bit fluffy. And what looks like in the bowl would be like lemon frosting. All right, sort of like that. Okay, we're gonna put in our 3/4 of a cup, of applesauce. And even though applesauce is sort of a liquid type ingredient, for accuracy of measure of this ingredient, it really is best if you measure in the dry measuring cups. So in your kitchens, you're going to find a 1/2 cup measuring cup and a 1/4 cup measuring cup, and that's the 2 measures that you need to use of your applesauce. If you measure in a liquid measuring cup, often it ends up being slightly over measured, and so you add just a little bit too much, and then the dough is too wet. Okay, so we want to make sure that we get all of that in there. And we're going to mix these together. While I fling it around my kitchen. And then we're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients to the bowl, and then stir gently to combine. You can see I've got a 12 muffin tin ready, and I have the muffin papers in it. Remember that you had to grease the papers for the buried treasure muffins, and you don't need to do that with this recipe that you're going to be making. The papers are just fine by themselves. These muffins don't stick as bad as their very treasure muffins did. These are going to go into a preheated 350-degree oven, and they'll take about 20 to 24 minutes or so to bake. You're going to fill your muffin tins around 2/3 of the way full. This batter needs to be evenly distributed between those 12 muffins, and it should be a nice caramel color when they're finished baking, so a nice sort of dark caramel. What is a good addition, if you like them, into this recipe are raisins. If you want some raisins in your muffins but the rest of your kitchen doesn't, then you can put the batter in the pans and then poke a few raisins in just the muffin cups that you want to take for yourself. And that does it for our applesauce muffins.